All right, thank you guys. The Angels take on the Athletics, 3:40 p.m. Eastern first pitch. The A's are minus 120, totals 9.5, juice to the under. The Angels are plus 105 to win it. We got Griffin Canning for the Angels, Chris Bassett for the A's. I'm 2-0 my last two MLB tier package plays on patreon.com/BrockPage. And of course, that's a website where I sell sports picks beginning at just $1.99. I'm also 7-3 in my last 10 extra daily pick tier package plays on that site as well. Link for that website is in the description section below. And once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. Now, Chris Bassett's coming off a solid 10-5 year in 2019. He walked just 47 batters and had a whip of 1.19. The A's have already took 2 of 3 against these LA Angels in this series, and they find themselves 5-1 in their last 6 at home, taking on the Angels. Now, Oakland's been victorious in 11 out of their last 16 at the Coliseum, and they are 5-1 in their last 6 games where Bassett made the start. Oakland's taking on an Angels squad who they've won just 2 out of their last 11 head-to-head matchups with the A's. They're also just, once again, 1-5 straight up in their last 6 at the Coliseum. They're putting Griffin Canning on the bump, who's coming off a 5-6 inaugural season with an ERA of 4.58. He started 17 games and gave up 14 home runs. He also gave up 46 earned runs in his 90 1/3 innings of work. And when it comes to the total in this one, Canning's last 2 starts last season got over the total of 9.5 runs. 5 out of his last 7 starts also got over that number. Meanwhile, on the Athletics side of things, Bassett's last 5 straight starts all got over the 9.5 himself. 2 out of the A's last 3 head-to-head meetings with the Angels also flew over that number. So with all that in mind, give me the Oakland A's minus $1.20 and the over 9.5 in this spot. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take another quick timeout and welcome you to the video. Got some lines and personal leans out for Monday's MLB baseball action. But before we dive into some more free content right here on YouTube, I just have to quickly remind you once again that after Sunday's sports wagering action, we're currently 7-3 in our last 10 extra daily picks on patreon.com/BrockPage. We're also 12-5 in our last 17 package selections in that same category as well. If you want some more information on how you can join in on the action, link for that site is in the description section below. And once again, that is patreon.com/BrockPage. And moving on, we've got the D-backs taking on the Padres, 4:10 Eastern first pitch at Petco Park. The Pods are minus $1.18, totals 8 runs. The D-backs are the plus 102 underdogs. We got Luke Weaver for the D-backs, Joey Lucchesi for the Padres. Now, Lucchesi went 10-10 last season on a very lackluster Padres team. He showed some very good stuff in many different spots. And out of 30 starts, he fanned 158 batters and had a whip of 1.22. Now, the Padres went 4-3 in Lucchesi's last 7 starts. They are taking on an Arizona squad who dropped 2 out of their first 3 games of the season to this very Padres squad. They also lost 2 out of their last 4 games where Luke Weaver made the start. Weaver's just 19-20 for his career and has a career ERA of 4.39. The D-backs have also dropped 8 out of their last 11 away from home, dating back to last season. Now, total-wise, Weaver's last 5 starts failed to get over the total of 8 runs. Meanwhile, on the Padres side, 6 out of Lucchesi's last 7 starts stayed under that number himself. The Padres' last 2 games stayed under the 8 runs as well. And of course, those contests were against Arizona. So with all that in mind, give me the Padres winning this one outright and the under 8 runs in that contest. All right, next matchup, it is going to be the Blue Jays taking on the Gnats. And that is going to be a 6:05 p.m. start in the nation's capital. The Gnats are minus 128, totals 10.5 flat. The Jays are plus 110 to win it. And if you like Toronto to keep this one close, they're minus 175, catching the 1.5. We got Trent Thornton for the Jays, Anibal Sanchez for the Nationals. Sanchez had an ERA last season just shy of 4. The Gnats also lost in 2 out of Annibal's last 3 starts. Washington's just 1-2 on the season, and they have notoriously been slow starters, even in their championship season last year. Oddly enough, the Gnats have dropped 5 out of their last 6 games at Nationals Park, dating back to last season. They are taking on a Toronto squad who's 5-0 in their last 5 head-to-head meetings with Washington. They're being led by Trent Thornton, who struck out 149 batters last season in 154 and a third innings pitched. And when it comes to the total in this one, Thornton's last 2 starts fell under the total of 10.5 runs. Meanwhile, 4 out of his last 6 starts also fell under that number. Meanwhile, on the National side, they saw 6 out of their last 7 games stay under the 10.5 when Sanchez threw out the first pitch. 2 out of Washington's 3 games on the season also stayed under that number. So with all that in mind, give me the underdog Blue Jays winning this one straight up and the under 10.5 in that ball game. All right, next matchup I have for you. It is going to be the Cubs taking on the Reds, 6:40 p.m. Eastern start time. The Cubs are the -118 favorite, totals 10.5 flat. The Reds are catching even money for an outright victory. And if you like the Reds to cover on the run line in this one, they're -154, catching the 1.5. Now we got Wade Miley for the Reds, Big John Lester for the Cubs. The Cubs lost 3 out of their last 4 games where Big John made the start. We actually saw a little bit of regression in Lester last season as he finished the year with a 4.46 ERA and gave up a career-high 26 home runs. Matter of fact, Lester has given up a total of 76 home runs in his past 3 seasons. He finished 2019 with a 1.497 whip, which is his worst since his rookie season. The Cubbies dropped 4 out of their last 6 head-to-head meetings with Cincinnati, and they've been victorious in just 4 out of their last 14 contests at the Great American Ballpark. They are taking on a newly acquired Wade Miley, who put up a 14-6 season last year with the Astros and struck out 140 batters. And once again, this Reds team has gone 10-4 in their last 14 meetings with the Cubs at the Great American Ballpark. Now, total-wise, all 3 of Cincinnati's games this season stayed under the total of 10.5 runs. Meanwhile, on the Cubs side of things, Chicago saw 2 out of their last 3 stay under that number themselves. 4 out of Lester's last 6 starts also stayed under the 10.5. So with all that in mind, we're going to lean toward another underdog. Give me the underdog Reds winning this one outright and the under 10.5 in that game. All right, next contest. Braves taking on the Rays, 6:40 p.m. East. The Rays are the $1.43 fave. Totals 8.5 juice to the under. The Braves are plus $1.20 on the money line. And if you like Atlanta to cover, they're -167 on the run line. We got Mike Foltynewicz for the Braves, Tyler Glasnow for Tampa Bay. Glasnow had a curiously strong year last season, going 6-1 in 12 starts. Having said that, though, it seems to be that 2019 was clearly an anomaly, as Tyler's best season before that was a 2-7 campaign back in 2017 with the Pirates. Glasnow's 10-17 for his career and has a career ERA of 4.51. The Rays also lost their last 2 games where Tyler made the start. They're taking on an Atlanta squad who took 2 of 3 from the Mets, including a 14-1 dismantling of New York yesterday. They held the Mets to just 5 total runs in that 3-game series to start off the 2020 season. The Braves were also 13-2 in their last 15 games where Folty throws out the first pitch. Foltynewicz had a 1.24 whip last season and struck out 202 batters back in 2018. The Braves have also been victorious in 7 out of their last 8 meetings with an American League opponent. Now, scoring-wise, 2 out of Atlanta's last 3 stayed under the total of 8.5 runs. 3 out of Folty's last 4 starts stayed under that number as well. Meanwhile, on the Tampa side of things, their last 3 Glasnow starts stayed under the 8.5 themselves. 9 out of their last 11 Glasnow starts also stayed under the 8.5. I'm going to lean toward another underdog. Give me the underdog Braves plus $1.20 and the under 8.5 in that contest. All right, next and final matchup for the show. It's going to be the Yankees taking on the Phillies, 7:05 p.m. Eastern first pitch at Citizens Bank Park in South Philly. The Yankees are minus 138, totals 10.5 flat. The Fightins are plus $1.15 to win it. And if you like the Phillies to cover at home, they're minus 128 for some run line cash. Not a bad price point there. We got Jay Happ for the Yankees, Jake Arrieta for the Phillies. Arrieta put up a 4.64 ERA last season in 24 starts. He gave up 21 homers and struck out just 110 batters. Jake also finished with a pretty bad 1.47 whip. The Phils have lost 3 out of their last 4 games where Arrieta made the start. Philly also dropped 2 out of their last 3 games to open up the season, and sadly enough, those were against the Miami Marlins. And one more thing to add, the Fightins dropped 6 out of their last 8 meetings with the Yankees at Citizens Bank Park in South Philly. And speaking of the Yankees, they're 4-1 in their last 5 J-Hap starts. The Yanks started off this 2020 campaign taking 2 of 3 from the defending champs, holding them to just 2 runs or less in 2 of those contests. Now, J-Hap finished 2019 with a 12-8 record for the Yankees in 30 starts. And when it comes to the total in this one, 5 out of Hap's last 6 starts stayed under the total of 10.5 runs. 2 out of New York's 3 games on the year also stayed under that number. Meanwhile, on the Philly side of things, 2 out of their 3 contests on the season stayed under the 10.5 themselves. Give me the Yankees minus $1.38 and the under 10.5 in that game. With that said, we're going to dive into some shout-outs. And from our Patreon platform, shout out to Aaron Bell, PJ Desimone, Christian Castro, Dave Jarrett, Jonathan Young, Paul Lopez, Anthony Ramos, Brian Osborne, Chris Butler, and Travis Holland. Next, from our Instagram platform, shout out to Peter Godfrey, Keaton Johnston, Kaio Yoshimura, Bubba Jonesy. Shout out to Tattoo Tom Kaselika. Also want to give a shout out to Carter For Real, Edwin 0031, Lamar Bowman, Will Slade, and Anthony Manzanares. And finally, from our YouTube platform, shout out to Green Tongue Man, SOP Striker, Joseph Nickel, Carlos Rojas, Anthony James. Also want to give a shout out to Jamal Johnson, Bruce Gallick, Aaron Lawrence, Elijah Bromley, and last but certainly not least, gotta give a shout out to my man. He's the hockey guy. I'm talking about Ant Ruga. You know what? Ant Hockey is right around the corner. I know you are excited for that. I'm certainly excited for it as well. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you decide to pull the trigger, we'll bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. But most importantly, guys, I got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Monday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.